After my husband died, his family took the house, but they didn't know about the second property. In my name. They say you really see a person's true nature when money is involved, especially family. I always believed blood was thicker than water, but it turns out resentment and greed are thicker than both. When my husband passed away, I thought the worst pain was over. I was wrong. The real hurt began when his family, the people I cooked for, cared for, and called my own, made it clear that I was no longer welcome in the house I helped build. That morning when I overheard their whispered plans and laughter in the kitchen, I understood. I had become invisible. My name is Margaret Walker. I'm 62 years old, and for most of my life I put everyone else first. If you're reading this, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this. Now, let me tell you what really happened after my husband died. I stood in my own kitchen, watching Evelyn reorganize my spice cabinet like she owned the place. 3 days since Robert's funeral, and she was already making herself comfortable. "Margaret, you really should label these properly," she said without looking at me. "It's so disorganized." "I've been using that system for 30 years, I said quietly. "Well, things change." She pulled out my favorite mixing bowls and set them aside. "These are chipped. We should donate them." My throat tightened. Those bowls were wedding gifts. I'd rather keep them. "Why hold on to broken things?" Sandra, my niece by marriage, chimed in from the doorway. "Fresh start and all that." I watched them exchange a look, the kind of look that excluded me, completely. In 3 days, I'd seen that look dozens of times. "Where should I put these photo albums?" Daniel called from the living room. "Storage," Evelyn answered before I could speak. "We need to clear some space." Those were our family photos, mine and Robert's, our trips, our holidays, our life together. "Actually," I started, but Daniel was already stacking them in a box. "Mom's right," he said. "Too much clutter makes the place feel smaller." "This is still my home," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Of course it is," Evelyn said with that patronizing smile. "We're just helping you get organized. You've been through so much." Sandra nodded. "We know how overwhelming this must be for you." Overwhelming, as if grief made me incompetent. I retreated to Robert's study, the one room they hadn't invaded yet. His reading chair still smelled like his cologne. I sat there, listening to them move through my house like they were measuring it for furniture. "The kitchen needs updating," I heard Sandra say. "And that wallpaper in the hallway has to go," Evelyn added. They were planning. Not asking. Not suggesting. Planning. My phone buzzed. Linda, my best friend and accountant. "How are you holding up?" she asked when I answered. "Fine," I lied. "Margaret, you don't sound fine. What's happening over there?" I looked toward the door, hearing Evelyn's voice getting closer. "They're helping me organize." Helping or taking over? Before I could answer, Evelyn appeared in the doorway. "Who's that, Margaret?" "Linda." "Oh, tell Linda we appreciate her concern, but we have everything handled here." Linda must have heard because she said, "Margaret, I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk." After I hung up, Evelyn sat in Robert's desk chair like she belonged there. "You know, Margaret, we've been thinking. This house is really too big for one person. Robert and I managed fine." "But Robert's gone now." Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were calculating. "You're all alone in this big house. It's not practical." I'm not ready to make any big decisions yet. Of course not. But eventually, you'll want to think about downsizing. Something smaller, more manageable. This is my home, Evelyn. I know, dear, but homes are meant to be lived in, not just occupied. The word stung. Occupied. Like I was squatting in my own life. That evening I cooked dinner for everyone like I always did. But instead of gathering around our table, they took their plates to the living room to watch television. I ate alone, in the kitchen, surrounded by the sounds of my own family, enjoying themselves, without me. Later, as I cleaned up, I heard Daniel on the phone in the hallway. "Yeah, the place has good bones," he was saying. "Needs some work. But the location's prime." My hand stilled on the dish I was washing. He was talking about our house. No, she's not thinking clearly right now. Give it time. I finished the dishes in silence, my mind racing. When had I become someone whose thoughts didn't matter? When had I become someone they talked around instead of to? That night I lay in the bed I'd shared with Robert for 28 years, listening to them laugh downstairs in my living room. Tomorrow Linda would come. Tomorrow I'd start paying attention to things I'd been too grief-stricken to notice. But tonight, I mourned more than just my husband. I mourned the family. I thought I had. "We need to talk about practical matters," Evelyn announced the next morning, settling into Robert's chair at the head of our dining table. I poured coffee for everyone, noticing how naturally they'd taken their seats. Everyone except me. My usual spot had been claimed by Sandra. "What kind of practical matters?" I asked, taking the chair closest to the kitchen. "Financial responsibilities," Daniel said, pulling out a folder. "Dad left some debts we need to address." My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. "What debts?" "Credit cards, the car payment, household expenses," Sandra listed. "Things add up." "Robert was very responsible with money," I said carefully. "Was he?" Evelyn's eyebrows rose. "Margaret, dear, you might not have been aware of everything. Men sometimes shield their wives from financial stress. I handled our household budget for 30 years. "The household budget, yes," Daniel said. "But there were other obligations, business expenses, investments that didn't pan out." I felt the ground shifting beneath me. "Show me the statements." "We don't want to burden you with all these details," James said quietly. He'd barely spoken since arriving, just nodded along with his wife. "I'm not burdened by facts, James." Evelyn leaned forward. "The point is, maintaining this house will be expensive. The property taxes alone." "I can manage the property taxes." "With what income?" Sandra asked. "Your Social Security won't cover everything." "Robert had life insurance, which will help," Daniel said quickly. "But it won't last forever. You need to think long-term." I set down my coffee. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "Nothing drastic," Evelyn assured me. "Just that you consider your options. This house could sell for a good price in today's market." "And then what? Where would I live?" "There are lovely senior communities," Sandra said brightly. "Places where you wouldn't have to worry about maintenance or yard work." "I like yard work. Do you really want to be out there with a lawnmower at your age?" Daniel asked. "My age, 62. Not exactly ancient." "Or," Evelyn continued, "you could find a nice apartment. Something modern, accessible." "The house stays in the family either way," Sandra added. "We're not strangers buying it." I studied their faces. This wasn't a discussion. It was a presentation. They'd already decided. I see, I said slowly. And who exactly would buy it from me? Well, Daniel shifted in his chair. I've always loved this house. Grew up here, you know. Has sentimental value. For fair market value, of course, Evelyn added. We wouldn't want you to feel taken advantage of. The irony wasn't lost on me. How thoughtful, I said. My phone rang, saving me from having to respond further. Linda's name flashed on the screen. I should take this. Actually, Evelyn said, we're in the middle of an important conversation. Linda's important too. I answered in the kitchen, but their voices carried clearly. She's not thinking rationally, I heard Sandra whisper. Grief affects everyone differently, James murmured. She needs guidance, Daniel said. Someone to help her see the bigger picture. Margaret? Linda's voice drew my attention back to the phone. I'm outside. Can I come in? Please. I let Linda in through the back door. She took one look at my face and squeezed my hand. Rough morning. They want me to sell the house. Do you want to sell? No. Then don't. It's not that simple. They're family. So are you, Linda said firmly. And this is your house. We returned to the dining room together. Evelyn's smile became strained when she saw Linda. Linda, how nice. We were just discussing Margaret's future. Were you? Linda pulled out the chair next to mine. And what does Margaret think about her future? We're exploring options, Daniel said diplomatically. I see. And these options all involve Margaret leaving her home. We're being practical, Sandra said defensively. Practical for whom? The room fell silent. Evelyn's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something cold underneath. Linda, we appreciate your concern, she said. But this is family business. Margaret is my family too. The family we choose, not just the one we're born into. After an uncomfortable pause, everyone began making excuses to leave. Within an hour, the house was quiet again. They'll be back, Linda said, as we watched them drive away. I know. Are you ready for when they do? I thought about Robert, about the promises he'd made to always take care of me, about the conversations we'd had in this very room about protecting what mattered most. I'm starting to be. Margaret, we're having dinner guests tonight, Evelyn announced, bustling into my kitchen with grocery bags. I hope you don't mind. Mind? It was my kitchen. Who's coming? The Hendersons from church and the Millers. We thought it would be nice to have company. She began unpacking ingredients I hadn't bought, using my counter space like it was hers. Should I help cook? I asked. Oh, don't worry about it. Sandra and I have everything planned. You just rest. Rest. In the middle of the day. Like I was an invalid. Actually, I enjoy cooking. This is my kitchen. I know, dear, but you've been through so much. Let us take care of you for once. The condescension in her voice made my teeth clench. I've been cooking in this kitchen for 30 years. Which is exactly why you deserve a break, Sandra chimed in, appearing with more bags. We've got this handled. I watched them work, reorganizing my spices, using my good pots without asking, making themselves completely at home. When I tried to help, Evelyn gently but firmly guided me toward the door. Why don't you take a nap? We'll call you when dinner's ready. In my own house? You need your rest, Sandra agreed. All this stress isn't good for someone your age, someone my age. There it was again. I retreated to my bedroom, feeling exiled. Through the door I could hear them laughing, chatting, the sounds of a family dinner preparation. without me. At 6 o'clock, I heard cars pulling into the driveway. Voices, greetings, the front door opening and closing. No one called for me. I waited. 7 o'clock came and went. The sounds of dinner conversation drifted upstairs. Familiar voices, people I'd known for years, eating at my table. At 7:30, I came downstairs. The dining room was full. My table set with my good china, surrounded by neighbors and friends. But there was no place set for me. "Oh, Margaret," Mrs. Henderson looked up brightly. "How are you holding up, dear?" Before I could answer, Evelyn appeared at my elbow. "Margaret was just going to rest. She's been having such a difficult time. I was coming to join dinner." "But we discussed this," Evelyn said quietly. "You need your rest." In my own dining room? An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Mr. Miller cleared his throat. Mrs. Henderson looked confused. "There's no extra chair," Sandra pointed out, as if that settled it. I looked around my own dining room. They were right. Every seat was taken. In my own house, there was no room for me. "I see," I said. "I can make you a plate," Evelyn offered. "You can eat upstairs." Upstairs? Like a child being punished. No, thank you. I turned and left, their conversation resuming behind me in hushed, embarrassed tones. In the kitchen, I made myself a sandwich and ate it standing at the counter, listening to the dinner party in my dining room. They were discussing travel, plans, grandchildren, community events, all the conversations I used to be part of. Around 9 o'clock, the guests began leaving. I heard them thanking Evelyn and Sandra for the lovely evening, praising the meal, expressing sympathy for my difficult adjustment. After the last car pulled away, I started cleaning up. The dishes were already soaking, the leftovers put away. They'd managed perfectly without me. "Margaret," Evelyn found me wiping down the counter. "I hope you're not upset about dinner." "Upset?" "We thought it would be too much for you. Social situations can be overwhelming when you're grieving." "I've been hosting dinner parties in this house since before Sandra was born." "I know, but things are different now. You're alone, vulnerable. People understand." Vulnerable. The word hit like a slap. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, I heard voices from the living room. Daniel and Evelyn, speaking in low tones. "She's not adjusting well," Evelyn was saying. "Can you blame her?" Daniel replied, "This is hard. It's been 3 weeks. She needs to start facing reality." "What if she won't sell?" "She will. She has to. She can't maintain this place alone." "And if she digs in?" "Then we help her. See reason." "She's not the woman who cooked for Dad, Daniel. She's just alone now. She'll come around." Just the woman who cooked for Dad. 30 years of marriage, and that's what I'd been reduced to. The cook. I stood in the darkness at the top of the stairs, gripping the banister so hard my knuckles went white. Something cold and hard settled in my chest, replacing the hurt and confusion I'd been carrying. They wanted me gone. They'd already written me off, planned my exit, decided my future. In their minds, I was just an obstacle to clear away. But they didn't know everything. Robert had taught me that. He'd always said preparation was the key to survival. Tomorrow I'd start preparing. Tonight I'd stop being just the woman who cooked for Dad. I waited until the house was completely quiet before slipping into Robert's study. My hands shook as I turned the key. The key they didn't know I had. The room smelled like leather and old books, like the man I'd lost. His desk sat exactly as he'd left it, papers still scattered across the surface, his reading glasses folded on top of his calendar. "If anything happens to me, Maggie," he'd said just 6 months ago, "there's a file in my desk, bottom drawer, behind the tax records. Everything you need to know is in there." I'd kissed his forehead and told him nothing was going to happen. I was wrong. The file was exactly where he'd said it would be. A manila folder labeled MW, Important, in his careful handwriting. Inside, legal documents, property deeds, insurance papers, and something that made my heart stop. A warranty deed for 412 Maple Street, a small house on the edge of town. Purchased 8 years ago. Owned by Margaret Walker. Me. "What in the world?" I whispered to the empty room. I read the document 3 times before it sank in. Robert had bought a second property and put it in my name. There were more papers, maintenance records, tax payments, even receipts for repairs, all handled through a property management company. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. "Can't sleep. You okay?" I called her immediately. "Linda, I need you to come over. Now." "It's midnight, Margaret." "Please, I found something." She arrived 20 minutes later in her pajamas and coat, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the all-night diner. "What's so urgent that—" She stopped when she saw the papers spread across Robert's desk. "What is all this?" "I own a house," I said simply. "What?" I handed her the deed, watched her face change as she read. "Margaret, do you know what this means? That my husband was keeping secrets? That your husband was protecting you?" She picked up another document. "Look at this. He's been making payments on this house for 8 years. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, all from a separate account." "What separate account?" Linda pulled out her laptop. "Let me check something." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "Margaret, you've been getting direct deposits. Small amounts, monthly. I always assumed they were from Robert's retirement account." "They were rental income," I realized. "From this house." "Rental income that's been going into an account in your name only." I sank into Robert's chair. All those years of him handling the complicated finances, of him telling me not to worry about investments and accounts. He hadn't been excluding me. He'd been building me a safety net. "There's more," Linda said, still reading. "This rental income has been accumulating for years. Margaret, you have almost $40,000 in an account you didn't know existed." The room spun. "That's impossible." "It's right here. Account statements, investment records. Your husband set up everything to be completely separate from the joint accounts, completely separate from anything that would go through probate." "Why would he do that?" Linda looked at me over her glasses. "Because he knew his family, Margaret. He knew exactly what would happen after he died. I thought about the dinner tonight, about being excluded from my own table, about Evelyn's plans and Daniel's assumptions." "They don't know," I said. "How could they? Robert kept this completely private. The only names on any of these documents are yours and his." I spent the next hour reading every paper in the file. Robert had been meticulous. Property inspections, tenant backgrounds, even photos of the house. It was small but well-maintained, currently occupied by a young family who'd been model tenants for 3 years. "What are you thinking?" Linda asked. "I'm thinking Robert was smarter than any of us gave him credit for." "Are you going to tell them?" I considered this. "Not yet. Margaret, they've made it clear I'm not welcome in my own home, Linda. They've planned my future without consulting me. They think I'm helpless. And now, Now I know I'm not. Linda smiled for the first time all evening. What do you need me to do? Help me understand all of this. And Linda, I want to see the house. When? Tomorrow, after they leave for their respective jobs and errands. They have jobs? Evelyn's part-time at the library. Sandra does something with real estate. Daniel's between positions. Ah, Linda said. Daniel's between positions. That explains the sudden interest in your house. After Linda left, I sat in Robert's study, surrounded by his secrets. In the bottom of the file, I found a letter with my name on it. My dearest Maggie. It began in his familiar handwriting. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably feeling lost and overwhelmed. I'm sorry I couldn't explain all of this while I was alive, but I needed to make sure it was secure first. The letter went on to explain everything. How he'd noticed his family's attitude toward me changing over the years. How he'd heard Evelyn's comments about the house being wasted on just the two of us. How Daniel had asked pointed questions about inheritance. You deserve better than to be pushed aside. The letter continued. You deserve to choose your own future. The house on Maple Street is yours, free and clear. The rental income is yours. The savings account is yours. You don't need anyone's permission to live your life. It was signed, All my love, Robert. P.S. The spare key to Maple Street is in my tackle box. I held the letter against my chest and cried. Not from grief this time, but from gratitude. Even in death, Robert was still taking care of me. But more than that, he'd given me something I'd lost these past few weeks. Choices. Tomorrow I'd start making them. Where are you going so early? Evelyn asked, finding me in the kitchen at 7:30. Running errands, I said, pocketing my car keys. What kind of errands? I can come with you. That's not necessary. I don't mind. You shouldn't be driving when you're this stressed. I paused at the door. I've been driving for 45 years, Evelyn. Of course, but since Robert's accident, you seem distracted. Robert's accident. He'd had a heart attack in his sleep. There was no accident, no distraction, no reason I couldn't drive. But in Evelyn's mind, I'd become incompetent overnight. I'll be fine. Michael Harper was waiting for me at the corner, just as Linda had arranged. The young handyman had worked on our house for years, and Robert had trusted him completely. Mrs. Walker, he said, climbing into my car. I have to say, I'm curious about this mystery house. You and me both, Michael. The drive to 412 Maple Street took 15 minutes through parts of town I rarely visited. When we pulled up, I sat in the car for a long moment, staring. It was perfect. Small but well-proportioned, with a front porch and established flower, beds, white clapboard siding, blue shutters, a red door that looked freshly painted. Nothing like the grand Victorian I'd called home for 30 years. But charming in its simplicity. Robert had good taste, Michael said. The spare key was exactly where the letter said it would be, in Robert's tackle box in the garage. My hands trembled as I unlocked the front door. Inside, the house was clean and bright, hardwood floors, built-in bookshelves, a stone fireplace. The kitchen was compact but efficient, with new appliances and granite countertops. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub. The tenants moved out last month, Michael said, reading from the property management file. Lease expired, they bought their own place. It's been sitting empty. It's beautiful. It's yours. We spent an hour walking through every room. Michael pointed out recent updates. New furnace, updated electrical, refinished floors. Robert had maintained this place better than I'd. Maintained our own home. What are you thinking? Michael asked. I'm thinking I could live here. Really. Look at this place, Michael. It's perfect for one person. No stairs to worry about. Small yard. Everything updated. What about the big house? What about it? Your family? My family has made it clear they don't need me there. On the drive back, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I had options. I had choices. I had a future that didn't depend on anyone's permission. But first, I needed to secure a few things. Michael, I need a favor. Name it. Can you help me move some things? Quietly. That afternoon, while Evelyn was at the library and Sandra was showing houses, Michael and I began moving boxes to the Maple Street house. Not everything. Just the things that mattered most. Photo albums, Robert's books, my grandmother's china, pieces of jewelry. You sure about this? Michael asked, loading my hope chest into his truck. I'm sure about protecting what's important to me. And the family. We'll discover I'm not as helpless as they think. We made 3 trips, and each time I felt more in control. By evening, I'd established a presence in my new house, not moving in yet, but preparing. When I returned, home, Daniel was waiting in the driveway. Where have you been all day? He asked. Out. Mom was worried. You were gone for hours. I'm 62, not 16, Daniel. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? He ran a hand through his hair. Look, Margaret, we're all just trying to look out for you. But you're making it difficult. How? By being secretive, by shutting us out. We're family. Are we? The question hung in the air between us. Of course we are. Just because Dad's gone doesn't mean... Doesn't mean what? That you'll stop treating me like an inconvenience? Nobody's treating you like anything. Really? Then why wasn't there a place for me at dinner last night? Daniel's face flushed. That was... We thought you needed rest. In my own home? It's complicated, Margaret. No, Daniel, it's really not. I left him standing in the driveway and went inside. Evelyn was in the kitchen preparing dinner as if she lived there. There you are, she said. I was getting worried. I can take care of myself, Evelyn. I know you can, dear, but there's no shame in accepting help. I looked around my kitchen. My spices rearranged, my counters reorganized, my space invaded. Actually, I said, there is something you can help me with. Of course. What? You can respect my boundaries. Her stirring paused. I'm sorry. This is my house, Evelyn. My kitchen, my rules. Margaret, I was just trying to. I know what you were trying to do. For the first time since Robert's funeral, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. Tomorrow, I continued, I'll be taking care of some personal business. Alone. What kind of business? The kind that doesn't concern you. I scheduled the meeting for 2 o'clock on a Thursday, when I knew everyone would be available. Linda arrived first, carrying her briefcase and laptop. Lisa Tran, the family lawyer, came next, looking professional and slightly puzzled. I have to admit, Margaret, Lisa said, your call intrigued me. You said you had important family business to discuss. I do. Daniel and Sandra arrived together, followed by Evelyn and James. They settled around my dining room table with barely concealed impatience. What's this about, Margaret? Evelyn asked. We all have busy schedules. I'm sure you do. I nodded to Linda, who opened her briefcase. I asked Lisa here because I have some legal questions, and I asked Linda because I need financial advice. Financial advice about what? Daniel asked. About my assets. Sandra exchanged a look with her mother. Margaret, we've been over this. Your assets are limited to the house and Robert's life insurance. Are they? I slid the first document across the table. The warranty deed for 412 Maple Street. Lisa picked it up first, her eyebrows rising as she read. Margaret, this is a property deed in your name. What property? Evelyn demanded, leaning forward. A house on Maple Street, purchased 8 years ago. The silence was deafening. That's impossible, Daniel said finally. Dad never mentioned a second property. Because it wasn't his. Property! It's mine! Sandra grabbed the deed from Lisa. This has to be some kind of mistake. It's not a mistake, Lisa said, examining the document. This is legitimate. Margaret, you own this property free and clear. But how? James spoke for the first time. We never heard about any second house. Robert was very private about certain financial matters, I said calmly. Linda slid another folder across the table. These are the rental income statements. This property has been generating income for 8 years. Evelyn's face had gone pale. Rental income. About $600 a month, Linda confirmed. All deposited into an account in Margaret's name only. That's impossible, Daniel repeated, but his voice had lost its certainty. Furthermore, I continued, that rental income has been earning interest. Combined with Robert's careful investments, there's currently $38,472 in my private account. The numbers hit them like physical blows. Why are you telling us this? Sandra asked weakly. Because for the past month, you've all been operating under the assumption that I'm destitute, that I need to sell this house to survive. Well, Evelyn stammered, financial security is always good, but the house is still too big for one person. You're right, I said. It is too big for one person. Relief flickered across their faces. Which is why I'm moving out. The relief died. Moving where? Daniel asked. To my house on Maple Street. But then what happens to this house? Sandra's voice was barely a whisper. I looked around the table at their shocked faces. I haven't decided yet. You haven't decided? Evelyn's composure cracked. Margaret, this house has been in the family for 30 years. It's been my home for 30 years. Robert's and mine. But surely you understand that we have sentimental attachment, do you? I interrupted. Because for the past month you've been treating it like a burden I need to unload. That's not true, James protested. Isn't it? You've reorganized my kitchen, removed my photographs, excluded me from dinner in my own dining room. We were trying to help, Sandra said. Were you? Or were you trying to make me so uncomfortable that I'd leave voluntarily? No one answered. Lisa cleared her throat. Margaret, do you have plans for this property? I'm considering my options. I might sell it. I might rent it. I might keep it as investment property. Investment property. Daniel's voice cracked. Why not? I apparently have a talent for real estate I never knew about. Evelyn leaned forward desperately. Margaret, please. Can't we discuss this as a family? We tried that approach. You made unilateral decisions about my future without consulting me. We were concerned about you, James said. Were you concerned when you took my seat at the dinner table? When you packed away my photo albums? When you discussed selling my house while I was in the next room? Their guilty faces told me everything. I heard you, Daniel. The night you called me, just the woman who cooked for Dad. Daniel's face turned red. I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you said, and maybe you were right. Maybe that's all I was before. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in years. But I'm not just that anymore. I'm Margaret Walker, property owner, investor, and a woman who finally understands her own worth. Margaret, Evelyn tried one more time. Surely we can work something out. I'm sure we can, when you're ready to treat me as an equal instead of an inconvenience. I looked around the table one last time. Linda will be handling my affairs going forward. Lisa, thank you for coming. Everyone else, I suggest you start making your own housing arrangements. As they filed out in stunned silence, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Moving day came 3 weeks later. Michael had recruited 2 friends to help, and Linda supervised while I directed traffic between my old life and my new one. This goes to Maple Street, I told them, pointing to a box of Robert's books. That stays here. The that was a box of items Evelyn had chosen for the house. Decorative pieces I'd never liked, gifts from relatives I barely knew. Things that represented her vision of what my home should look like. You sure about leaving the dining room set? Michael asked. I looked at the massive table where I'd been excluded from my own dinner party. Positive. It's beautiful furniture. It's beautiful furniture with bad memories. By afternoon, the essential pieces of my life had been transferred to Maple Street. Standing in my new living room, surrounded by boxes but feeling completely at home, I marveled at how right everything felt. It's perfect, Linda said, admiring the way my grandmother's china cabinet fit perfectly in the corner. This house was meant for you. Robert knew, I said softly. Somehow, he knew I'd need this. My phone rang, James's name on the screen. Margaret? His voice was hesitant. I wanted to apologize. For what specifically, James? For not speaking up, for letting Evelyn, for going along with things I knew weren't right. I sat down in my new favorite chair, a reading chair I'd bought just for myself. Why are you calling, James? Because I miss talking to you. Because you were always kind to me, even when I didn't deserve it. And now? Now I realize what we lost when we pushed you away. Through my front window, I could see Anna Harper, walking up the path with a casserole dish and a bright smile. James, I appreciate the call, but I need to go. Could I come visit sometime? Just to talk? I considered this. James had been the quietest conspirator, but a conspirator nonetheless. We'll see. Anna knocked as I hung up, and her youthful energy filled my small living room immediately. Welcome to the neighborhood, she said, handing me the casserole. Mom sent tuna noodle, and I brought wine. Anna Harper, you're a treasure. I'm also nosy. I want to see everything. She toured the house with the enthusiasm of someone half her age, exclaiming over details I'd been too overwhelmed to notice. This bathroom is adorable. And look at this built-in window seat. Margaret, this place has so much character. It does, doesn't it? Way better than that mausoleum you were rattling around in. Anna! What? It's true. That place was like a museum. This feels like a home. Over dinner, Anna told me about her job at the veterinary clinic, her boyfriend troubles, her plans to travel. Normal conversation with someone who saw me as a person, not a problem to solve. Can I ask you something? She said as we finished the wine. Of course. How did you do it? Just walk away from all that history. I thought about it. I realized that holding on to the wrong things was keeping me from finding the right ones. But wasn't it scary, starting over at my age? She blushed. I didn't mean. It terrifies me, I admitted. But you know what terrified me more? Staying somewhere I wasn't wanted. The next morning I woke up in my own house for the first time. Sunlight streamed through windows I could open without asking permission. I made coffee in a kitchen organized exactly the way I wanted it. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Emergency at the old house. Daniel called about the furnace. I smiled and deleted the message. The old house wasn't my emergency anymore. Linda arrived around 10 with legal documents to sign. The property management company wants to know your plans for the Victorian, she said. What are my options? Sell it as is, renovate and sell for more, or rent it out. What about Daniel and his family? What about them? Could they afford fair market rent? Linda raised an eyebrow. Probably not. But Margaret, you don't owe them subsidized housing. I know. I'm just thinking. About what? About the difference between justice and revenge. That afternoon, Sandra called. Margaret, we need to talk, she said without preamble. Do we? The furnace died. The house is freezing. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, what are we supposed to do? Call a repair service. With what money? You know Daniel's between jobs. Sandra, it's not my house anymore. But you can't just abandon it. I'm not abandoning it. I'm living my life. What about family responsibility? The question hung between us. What about it, Sandra? Where was family responsibility when you took my seat at the dinner table? Silence. I have to go, I said. Margaret, wait, please. Something in her voice made me pause. I'm sorry, she said quietly. We were wrong about everything. Yes, you were. Can you forgive us? I'm working on it. What does that mean? It means forgiveness takes time, and it requires change. What kind of change? The kind where you see me as a person, not a problem. After I hung up, I sat in my garden reading a book I'd been meaning to finish for months. No interruptions, no one reorganizing my space, no one deciding what was best for me. For the first time since Robert died, I felt truly at peace. The phone rang again around dinner time. Evelyn's name. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 2 minutes long. Margaret, this is Evelyn. Please call me back. We need to discuss the house situation. Daniel can't afford to heat that place. And Sandra thinks you're being unreasonable. This has gone far enough. We're family, and family doesn't abandon each other. Call me. I deleted it and made myself dinner. The next morning, Lisa Tran called. Margaret, I've had an interesting conversation with Daniel Walker. Oh? He wants to contest your ownership of the Maple Street property. I nearly dropped my coffee cup. On what grounds? He claims Robert was incompetent when he made the purchase, suffering from early dementia that affected his judgment. That's ridiculous. Robert was sharp as a tack until the day he died. I know that. You know that. But Daniel seems to think he can prove otherwise. Can he? Not with the evidence I've seen. Robert's medical records show no signs of cognitive decline. The property purchase was handled by a reputable law firm. Every document was properly executed and witnessed. I sank into my reading chair. What do I need to do? Nothing yet. I told Daniel his case has no merit, but he's talking about hiring his own attorney. Let him. Margaret, litigation can be expensive and time-consuming, even when you're right. Some things are worth fighting for, Lisa. After I hung up, I called Linda. They're going to challenge the property ownership, I told her. Expected. Daniel's desperate. What do you mean? I did some checking. He owes money, Margaret. Credit cards, personal loans. He was counting on inheriting that house. And now? Now he's facing the reality that actions have consequences. That afternoon, James appeared at my door. I hope you don't mind the visit, he said, hat in hand. Come in. He looked around my living room with genuine appreciation. This is nice, Margaret. Really nice. Thank you. I wanted to talk to you about Daniel. I figured. He's not thinking clearly. The money pressure. Losing. His job. Now this thing with the house. James, I'm sorry Daniel's struggling, but that doesn't make his behavior acceptable. I know. But he's family. So am I. James sat heavily in the chair across from me. Evelyn's beside herself. She never expected things to go this far. What did she expect? That you'd be grateful for the help. That you'd go along with the plan. The plan to push me out of my own home? The plan to take care of you. I studied his face. Do you really believe that's what this was about? He was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said. I think we saw an opportunity and convinced ourselves it was for your own good. Thank you for being honest. Margaret, is there any way to fix this? That depends on what Daniel does next. And if he drops the legal challenge, then we can talk. About what? About what family actually means. James left looking thoughtful. An hour later, Sandra called. I heard about Daniel's lawyer, she said. Did you? Margaret, this is getting out of hand. I agree. Then call it off. Come home, and we'll work something out. Sandra, I am home. You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. And that's the problem. Fine. But when Daniel takes you to court and drags all our family business into public, don't blame us. I won't. But I won't back down either. You're being stubborn. I'm being strong. There's a difference. The next day, Michael called with news. Daniel's lawyer came by the Victorian, he said, asking questions about Robert's mental state, whether I ever noticed anything odd. What did you tell him? The truth. That Robert was one of the sharpest men I knew. That he planned everything carefully, including providing for you. Thank you, Michael. There's something else. The lawyer was asking about the house's condition, taking pictures of needed repairs. Why? I think they're trying to prove Robert was irresponsible with property maintenance. Build a case that he wasn't competent to make major financial decisions. That's despicable. It's also desperate. That evening, Evelyn showed up at my door. We need to end this, she said without preamble. I agree. Then come home, and we'll pretend none of this happened. Evelyn, I am home. That's not what I mean, and you know it. Yes, I do know what you mean. You want me to pretend the last month didn't happen. Pretend you didn't exclude me from my own life. We made mistakes. We're human. Yes, you are. And so am I. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm human enough to expect better from the people who claim to love me. She looked around my small living room with obvious disdain. This is ridiculous, Margaret. You're living in a dollhouse when you could have a real home. This is a real home, Evelyn. It's mine. But what about the family home? What about preserving Robert's legacy? Robert's legacy is taking care of me, which is exactly what he did. By hiding assets, by keeping secrets, by making sure I had choices, Evelyn sat down uninvited. Daniel's scared, Margaret. He owes more money than we realized. That's not my problem to solve. But you could solve it. You could rent him the house for what he can afford. I could, but I won't. Why? Because solving Daniel's problems won't solve the real problem. Which is that none of you respect me enough to treat me as an equal. That's not true. Isn't it? You're here asking me to subsidize Daniel's housing, not offering to pay fair market rent. Evelyn's face flushed. We're family. Family helps family. Where was that philosophy when I needed help adjusting to life without Robert? She had no answer. Evelyn, I'll make you a deal. If Daniel drops the legal challenge and apologizes, genuinely apologizes, I'll consider renting the house to him at market rate. Market rate is too high. Then he can find somewhere else to live. You're being cruel. I'm being fair. There's a difference. After she left, I sat in my garden as the sun set, feeling sad but resolved. Family should mean love and support, and respect, but it shouldn't mean sacrifice without recognition, or giving without receiving. Tomorrow I'd find out what my family really valued, their pride or their relationships. Daniel's lawyer called on a Tuesday morning. Mrs. Walker, this is Stephen Cross. I represent Daniel Walker in the matter of the Maple Street property. I see. I'd like to discuss a settlement. What kind of settlement? My client is prepared to drop his legal challenge in exchange for a 50% stake in the property. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Mr. Cross, are you familiar with the legal concept of frivolous lawsuits? Mrs. Walker, I think you're being unreasonable. I think your client has no case, and you know it. Property disputes can be complicated. This isn't a property dispute. This is a man who owes money, trying to claim assets he has no right to. I hung up and immediately called Lisa. Daniel's lawyer just offered me a settlement, I told her. What kind? 50% of my property in exchange for dropping a baseless lawsuit. The audacity is breathtaking. What should I do? Nothing. Let them waste their money on legal fees while we prepare a countersuit for harassment. That afternoon, Anna stopped by with groceries and gossip. I heard through the veterinary clinic grapevine that Daniel's been asking around about loans, she said, unpacking vegetables in my kitchen. Loans? Using the Victorian as collateral. But apparently, he can't get approved because he doesn't actually own it. Good. Margaret, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you miss them? Your family? I thought about it while making tea. I miss who I thought they were. That's sad. It's also honest. I spent 30 years being grateful for their acceptance. Now I realize acceptance isn't enough. What is enough? Respect, kindness, being seen as a person with my own thoughts and feelings. Do you think they'll ever get it? Some of them might. James called yesterday to apologize again. Really, apologize, not just say the words. And the others? Sandra's pride is hurt, but she's young. She might come around. Evelyn. I shrugged. Evelyn sees what she wants to see. And Daniel? Daniel has confused wanting something with deserving it. My phone rang. Linda's name. Margaret, you need to see something, she said. Can I come over? Of course. Linda arrived with printouts and a grim expression. Daniel's been busy, she said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. He's applied for a second mortgage on the Victorian. How is that possible? He doesn't own it. He's claiming ownership rights as Robert's son. Forged some documents. That's fraud. Yes, it is. But it gets worse. He's also been telling people around town that you're mentally incompetent, that the family is trying to get you proper care. My blood ran cold. What? Anna's boss at the vet clinic called me. Said people have been asking questions about your mental state, whether you seem confused or erratic. This is unbelievable. It's also illegal. Defamation, fraud, possibly elder abuse. I sank into my chair. He's trying to destroy my reputation to get my property. Looks like it. But Margaret, he's made a mistake. What mistake? He's created a paper trail. Everything he's done is documented. And there are witnesses to his statements about your mental capacity. What should we do? We fight back, officially. That evening, I called James. I need to tell you something, I said, about Daniel. What about him? I explained what Linda had discovered. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. James, I'm here. I can't believe Daniel would do something like this. Can't you? Another pause. Actually, I can. God help me, I can. What are you going to do? What I should have done a month ago. The right thing. Which is, stop enabling him and start supporting you. The next morning, James arrived at my door with Evelyn in tow. She looked like she'd been crying. Tell her, James said firmly. Evelyn sat down heavily. Margaret, I owe you an apology. For which part? For all of it. For thinking we knew what was best for you. For treating you like a burden instead of family. And for not stopping Daniel when I should have. Did you know about the forged documents? No. But I knew he was desperate, and I didn't ask questions I should have asked. James took her hand. We're both sorry, Margaret. Deeply sorry. What changed your minds? You did, Evelyn said quietly. Seeing you in this house, happy and independent. Realizing that everything we thought we were protecting you from, you were handling just fine on your own. It took us too long to see it, James added. But we see it now. And Daniel? Daniel is on his own, Evelyn said firmly. What he's done is unforgivable. Will you testify to that if necessary? Yes, even against your own son. He stopped being the son I raised when he decided to hurt you. I looked at these two people who had been my family for decades. They looked older, sadder, but also more honest than I'd seen them in years. James, Evelyn, I appreciate this. I do. But apologies are just words. What would you need to see? James asked. Time, consistency, proof that you see me as an equal, not someone to manage. And our relationship can be rebuilt if we're all willing to do the work. Evelyn nodded. I'd like that. So would I, James agreed. After they left, I sat in my garden, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not for a return to the old ways, but for the possibility of something better. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Saw Daniel at the bank. Looked pretty upset. Think your lawyer friend had a conversation with him. I smiled and texted back, good. Some bridges could be rebuilt. Others needed to be burned to make room for something better. 6 months later, I hosted my first dinner party at the Maple Street house. Linda arrived first, carrying wine and her famous apple pie. Michael came next with his girlfriend, Sarah, followed by Anna and her new boyfriend. Tom, James and Evelyn were the last to arrive, bearing flowers and nervous smiles. "This is lovely, Margaret," Evelyn said, looking around my small dining room. "So warm and inviting." "Thank you." We gathered around my table, a small round one that fit perfectly in the space and seated everyone comfortably. No head of the table, no hierarchy, just friends sharing a meal. "Should we wait for Sandra?" Linda asked. "She's in Chicago," I said. "New job with a real estate firm there." "And Daniel?" "Daniel's living in Florida with his cousin. Fresh start, apparently." The legal situation had resolved itself once Lisa presented evidence of Daniel's fraud to the authorities. He'd agreed to leave town in exchange for not pressing charges, and Sandra had decided distance from the family drama was exactly what she needed. "Do you miss them?" Anna asked. "I miss the people I thought they were. But I don't miss the stress of trying to make relationships work that weren't working." "That's very wise," Sarah said. "It's very hard won," I corrected. Over dinner we talked about everything and nothing. Michael's new business venture, Linda's grandchildren, Anna's engagement, Evelyn's volunteer work at the literacy center. Normal conversation among people who respected each other. "Margaret," James said as we finished dessert, "I have something to tell you." "Oh." "Evelyn and I talked to a counselor about family dynamics, about the mistakes we made." "That's wonderful." "She helped us understand something important," Evelyn added. "We were so focused on what we thought you needed, we never asked what you wanted. And now?" "Now we're asking," James said. "What do you want from us?" I considered the question. I want what I've always wanted, to be seen, heard, and valued for who I am. Not for what we think you should be? Exactly. "Can you forgive us?" Evelyn asked. "Really forgive us?" "I already have," I said. "Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, but it's not carrying anger either." "What about trust?" "Trust is earned over time, but you're earning it." After everyone left, Linda helped me clean up. "You did good, kiddo," she said, drying dishes. "Did I?" "Look around. You've got a home you love, friends who respect you, and family members who are finally treating you right." "It only took 62 years. Better late than never." "Linda, can I ask you something?" "Always." Was I wrong to fight so hard? Should I have just let them sell the house and moved quietly? Linda set down the dish towel and looked at me seriously. "Margaret, you taught yourself that you matter. That's never wrong. Even when it hurt people. Did it hurt them or did it hurt their pride?" I thought about Daniel in Florida, starting over without the inheritance he'd counted on. About Sandra in Chicago, building a career independent of family expectations. "Maybe both," I said. "And maybe that was necessary." Later I sat on my front porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint my small yard golden. Tomorrow I'd start the advanced painting class I'd signed up for. Next week I'd visit the literacy center to see about volunteering. Next month Linda and I were taking a trip to Ireland. Something I'd always wanted to do but never felt free to plan. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Thank you for tonight. It felt like family." I texted back. It was family, the kind we choose to build. A second text came through, this one from Sandra in Chicago. "Mom told me about dinner. I'm sorry, I missed it. Maybe next time I'm home?" "You're always welcome," I replied. As the stars came out, I thought about Robert and the gift he'd given me. Not just the house or the financial security, but the knowledge that I was worth protecting, that I deserved choices. I'd learned that dignity isn't something others give you. It's something you claim for yourself. That family isn't just about blood or obligation, but about love and respect and seeing each other clearly. Most importantly, I'd learned that it's never too late to start over, to demand better, to choose yourself. My name is Margaret Walker. I'm 62 years old, and for the first time in my life, I put myself first. It wasn't selfish. It was necessary. And if you're reading this, wondering if you have the courage to stand up for yourself, to demand the respect you deserve, let me tell you something. You do. You absolutely do. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, on your own terms, surrounded by people who see your worth. I should know. I'm living it. The end.